them to please help us. Don't drop your kids off there. The neighbors don't like it. And so they do a lot of sort of self-policing on that. Every once in a while, you'll get somebody over there, and we send security scurrying after them, and they get the message really fast. I would say, and just maybe backed up, reinforced by the lack of phone calls I get from people who don't hesitate to call me at all. Mm-hmm. We don't have a problem with it. But
the neighbors are pretty vigilant in letting you know when it's being used.
Yep. And fortunately, with the most affected neighbors, the ones at the end of the cul-de-sac, I think we've got a pretty open relationship in terms of they've got my cell phone number on speed dial, I think. And, it's no problem. We want to know because we don't want it to be a problem.
Right.
And I would say that it is not a problem. But every once in a while, we have to.
It might help if you lock the gate at the end of McBain.
The problem with that is that we encourage our students to bike and walk.
Using
through
McBain.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we lock it, then the kids can't get through, and it puts them out on Alejandro or worse, Valparaiso. So this is sort of well-traveled path here that we've been through with the neighbors, and we've got to. They want our kids to be safe. They understand that we want our kids to be safe, and they don't mind kids riding up and down the street on bicycles. And that's part of the pitch we make to the parents is if you want your kids to be able to still use this to walk and bike to school, then you can't come in here.
Don't use it.
You can't use this. Don't mess it up for us. So it's working out really well, I think.
Will you amend the circulation plan with whatever's result of the planning on the multi-use field? It seems like there's a circulation plan for multi-field now that could also be part of this, and it's not. Now, some of the things include the fields in the maps, and other things don't. So I was just wondering why you left them on.
Well, the reason that the Garden Field is mentioned at all in here is because it would be odd if we didn't mention it, because we're part owners.
Right.
But this report is really focused on our main campus.
Okay.
But I didn't want to not mention that we also are part owners of another piece of land.
Okay. Thank you.
The next section, historic buildings and trees. Fortunately, we still have the historic building, but this drawing shows that we lost in the last year 2 heritage trees. And they are only marked by their absence. I can tell you where they are, but this green circle has been taken off of the plan. One of them is off one tree that fell. It was in a row of redwood trees. It was an oak tree, but it was in a row of redwood trees, and off the main parking lot off of Valparaiso. And what I did was, when that tree fell, it was really a distressed tree, but it was a heritage tree, but it fell. I believe last June, because I was on vacation when it fell. When I got back, I moved 3 30-foot redwood trees from a different part of the property and filled in that row. So it actually looks better, and it gave me the opportunity to move some trees that were getting seriously crowded from another part of campus. I did the same thing with another tree that fell, which was really unfortunate. It was a very large oak tree in between CADC and the athletic center. It just literally collapsed one day, and I have moved 3 oak trees that are about 20 feet tall into that area just in the last couple of weeks. We had to wait until the cool weather to try to get a higher certainty that they would transplant, and we moved 3 oak trees, and it actually, well, it's the best we can do. My tree movers love me at this point. I'm
Yeah,
shuffling trees
I
all
was
over
gonna say,
campus.
You must have a very big shovel.
The phasing, this was a section that we put in a number of years ago because we wanted to make sure that when we spoke to you about phase 0, phase 1, phase 2, that we all had a common language and that you understood what those phases entailed. And of course, it remains unchanged. The next section is both pages, the left-hand page and the right-hand page, are kind of the two other legs of our design parameter statement about what we do with our campus and what we make commitments to do. The left-hand page is a statement about how we use our campus. And we make very specific statements about that we don't intend to be a regional center. So for example, our performance hall, we don't intend it to be a regional center. It's for the use of the school. And it's sized and designed to be specifically for the use of the school and not something that we would rent out, something like the MA auditorium. It is not that at all. It is much, it is very specific to our campus. We don't rent our facilities. We don't host corporate sponsored events. We're not a site for public athletic organizations like Pop Warner, AYSO, things like that. We don't rent our facilities out for weddings and wedding receptions, other than for staff and faculty. We do for staff and faculty. We don't do commercial movie or media productions on the campus. We don't host trade shows. We don't do community professional theater or performances. And then, at your request, we have included that for any event that entails more than 200 visitors, we don't start or end events between 5 and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And that was designed to not exacerbate the problem of cars leaving the campus at that hour, the sort of rush hour. On the right-hand leaf, that remains unchanged too, and those are the hours that we use our campus. It speaks to the academic use of the campus and also the after-school use of the campus. So it gives you an idea of, not an idea, it gives you a very specific rule about how we use our campus. The last one is the one that we're most careful with because it's really easy to say, all right, we work between 7 and 5. That's pretty clear. But we have a number of special events. So what we've tried to do is to list those special events here and give you an idea of what they might entail. We have Special Olympics one weekend per year. We have an outdoor play that runs a little bit late. So we tried to give you a very sort of candid view of what we do on campus, so that you can have this document sort of as a reference when we see you in the future.
David, one quick question on the hours.
Yes.
And maybe this has been gone over before, but being the new kid on the block here, for your facilities yard, 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. That includes Saturday, and custodial 6 a.m. including Saturday. Does that jive with the towns? Don't we have 8 a.m. on Saturdays? So I'm wondering, is that a conflict, or has that been addressed before or anything like that? I'm not sure. I guess I'm asking you and fellow commissioners.
And staff.
And staff. Thank you.
The hours you're referencing are construction hours, and so these are, on-site custodial hours that we don't limit.
Okay.
The next section is a relatively new program for us, just in the last, I think, 3 years. It's our Go Menlo program. It's our traffic demand management program. We have branded it Go Menlo. We started in 2011-12 school year with 3 buses in the morning, which was a real departure for us. We never had school buses. We had activity buses, take our kids to sporting events and things like that, but we didn't have buses that picked kids up and brought them to school. But in the effort to mitigate the impact on Valparaiso, we started with 3 buses in the morning. Well, it didn't take us very long before we thought it would be a really good idea to expand that to both 3 buses in the morning and the afternoon. And then as we got pretty successful on that, we've added a 4th bus. Those things are wildly popular. And I think if you look at an average of 140 students ride the buses in the morning and 70 in the afternoon, that's a couple of things. I think it's because parents don't like to get up in the morning. They're happy to put their kids on the bus. But in the afternoon, what we have is a little bit more fragmented leaving of campus. The kids all arrive at one time in the morning, but in the afternoon, they've got a lot of different things they do, from after-school activities to meeting with teachers to athletics and all kinds of things. So the schedule gets so diffuse that parents will tend to come pick those kids up later in the evening after they're done with athletics. But the bottom line on this program is it has been extremely beneficial and impactful, beneficial in reducing the impact on Valparaiso. We have a train shuttle service that we have run for many years, and we continue to run that, and we pick up about 48 students in the morning, and we take 30 back in the afternoon, and much for the same reasons in the afternoon. Sometimes the kids the parents pick them up instead of putting them on a train. We have incentives for students and faculty and staff to use alternate means of transportation. We have an outreach program. We have a director of sustainability that was hired to manage this program. And he does a phone-a-thon where he gets a bunch of parents. They call other parents and say, please sign up, carpool, bike, ride the train, take the bus. We have, I think this is our second year of the Earth Day Challenge. We challenge Sacred Heart to see who can have the most bike ridership on a given day. And it's just a fun kind of a program for the kids. It's a little competition. And it's even more fun because we've beaten them twice. And we've only done it twice. So we've got a bragging rights at least on, and they try hard, but so we're pretty happy with that.
David, real quick, in reading through this, just to throw you guys kudos, I was most impressed with this section of the master plan and everything you've done with the Go Menlo project. I was especially impressed with the incentives and the events. I just thought that was fantastic. I just wanted to applaud you and your staff for coming up with this, and just reading through this, I was like, this is really, really impressive.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, thank you. Unfortunately, we have not met our targets.
Well, yeah, that's another
So
issue.
that's,
Well, he was gonna get to that later.
I thought I'd get there first because he's reading faster than I'm speaking. So, no, it has been a very impressive program. It has had benefits in our institution that go beyond what we originally intended to do. I mean, the program was devised to reduce the traffic on Valparaiso and reduce what effect we can make at our front entrance. But as time has gone on, the parents love it. It also helps us a great deal with being able to recruit students who wouldn't otherwise be able to get to campus. We've got a bus that runs down, I think it's to Cupertino. Cupertino. We just extended our bus route out into East Palo Alto. Some of those places, either with family situations or just because of the distance, those kids couldn't have considered them in the past. Now they can, because they can put their kids on the bus and they can go to work. They don't have to bring their kids all the way in. And it's a huge sort of side benefit to this whole thing. But the targets remain, and we work on this thing all the time. We have just put in our second car counter in the pavement. We put it very sophisticated. we put a car counter in when we started this thing because we wanted to know how we were doing. We didn't want to wait for you to count once a year and tell us. We wanted to know on a day-to-day basis because we could constantly tweak the system. We could offer more incentives. We could offer more buses. So we put a car counter in our gates, and we knew where we were. Well, it was generating a report that was, at last count, 38,000 rows long on an Excel spreadsheet, and it crashed the computer that was dedicated to processing this report. So we could see very quickly that we were not going to be able to get the information we wanted. We just finished installing a new car counter, which beams things up into the cloud and generates these reports, and it really is giving us some very good data. But I think the reason I mention that is I want you to know how committed we are to watching this thing on a day-by-day basis and making the tweaks. Sometimes I get really tired of the first thing in the morning is, we're not making it up. Okay, we'll keep tweaking, we'll keep working. But we also committed to you that we would report in our annual update where we are. And we are, at the time of this publication, we are at 656 vehicle trips in the morning, peak hour, and our target is 627. So we're, 30 over. In the afternoon, we're at 435 with a target of 302. And we have a parking utilization rate, which we also have to report to you. Parking utilization rate is 72 to 75.7%, and the target is 86.5%. So we're doing great on parking utilization. We've got a lot of people using the carpool parking. We've got a lot of visitor spots, and that's working very well. We have submitted a application to the commission, and I think we're coming back on January 22nd meeting.
I believe so.
For an amendment to our afternoon target. And we've got, we have what we think is very good reason to believe that 302 is absolutely unattainable and was calculated in error, and all we want is a fair and a fair target. But you'll hear more from us on that in January. I'm happy to talk to you about it now. The morning trip, we're not asking for an amendment to the morning target number, even though we're still about 25 vehicle trips away. But that kind of just spurs us on to, I spent, I think, 25% of my day working on a plan, today, working on a plan on how to get that 25 number down. We work on it constantly, so you'll hear more from us in January on that.
Outside of how the number was computed and what you're going to appeal to on that coming January, are there any other reasons why there's such a disparity between being close to that morning number and being so far off the afternoon number that you have come up with? I mean,
Well, it's only the afternoon number that we think was.
That's what I'm saying, but I mean, there's such a wide disparity. Both numbers were computed, and yet the morning number is, you're so close to that morning number, but so far off the afternoon number. So outside of that afternoon number being miscalculated at the beginning, are there any other extenuating things that you've come up with that drive that number out of whack that maybe weren't anticipated, or things that you've seen in the last little while?
In the afternoon number,
Yeah.
part of the problem we think we had was on the day that it was counted, we had a very unusual calendar. If I'm remembering this properly, most of our kids were at away games. There wasn't any traffic. So when you set the target, it was a very unusual day in that but very few people were coming onto campus to pick up their kids because they were all in away games. It's a very rare event for us, very rare. So we start off with that because we looked at it. We finally pulled out the calendar, and we pulled out all of our calendars and trying to figure out what happened on that day. And there were it was sort of a series of events, but one of them was, it was a very unusual day in terms of the calendar, and then people just weren't here. Then, the counting that was done, we think was done improperly. So, we have outlined this pretty specifically. We hired a traffic consultant to help us analyze the numbers and figure out why this thing was wrong, so that we felt that we had a credible reason to come back to you and say, we need a fair number in the afternoon. And that's the submission or the application that we made for January. The next section in the calendar of events is, and you'll notice that this one is signed by the former head of school, Norm Cole, because this is a meeting that takes place in March, we do every year, where we invite the neighbors to come in and to the annual meeting of neighbors, and it's pretty much we invite everybody, and it's kind of like, how are we doing? You know, you have any issues you want to talk about, anything you want to talk about. And we always include this in there, just to let you know that we've done it, and we will continue to do that. Next year, the signature will be different. The school-college relationship is a statement. Just to clarify, and it remains unchanged over the years, and it really is in response to a question I think the commission had a couple of years ago. That you wanted some clarity on how we relate to, how the school and the college relate to each other and how we work with each other. So we've made a statement about that, and it remains unchanged for the last, I think, at least 3 years. The last section is also probably of interest to you. And our enrollment for the 2012-13 school years, 793 students. And we anticipate for the next school year, 2013-14, we will abide by our commitment to not exceed 795 students. So, any questions? Happy to answer what I can.
Any questions?
I might have one on the enrollment. What is it actually right now? Today?
Today,
Yeah.
793 in here, was it?
It's 792 today.
792.
Somebody dropped out, who's the printing?
Correct.
792.
Correct.
Yes. We had a withdrawal.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Thank you,
you.
David.
We're being asked, as I understand it, to, one thing, staff's recommendation was the application for changing the conditions, and I assume that refers to the afternoon number of cars. Should be submitted in late summer or early fall 2013. That's,
Where are you looking?
well, there's no page number, just the memo from staff. Not the first 2 pages, but the third page.
Attached, first page attachment
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
Is there, that's not true then, is it?
Menlo School did apply. They made an application to amend that.
Oh, and
They recently made an application. We need to go through an environmental review process, so we've hired a consultant to do that in order to revise the condition and the conditional use permit. So we're currently working on the environmental process for an amendment to the CUP.
Mhm.
So your question is that, should that be modified for the motion, or?
Well, this is, what
Yeah.
we're giving you is the May 22nd staff report as an attachment, I think is what you're looking at, just as some background information.
Okay.
So yes, they have submitted
they
the
have made
application. Yes.
and they have to do an EIR for that.
I believe we're doing an amendment to the EIR that was previously prepared, not a new EIR.
So they,
Okay. Okay, we're being asked to accept the report. Is
Correct.
that correct?
Yes.
Not necessarily to approve it, but to
Correct.
accept the receipt of the report. Do we have any further questions? May we have a motion?
I've got a comment.
Sir?
I'd like to thank middle school staff for the preparation of this great report. It is a nice report. It's basically, in my view, it's where we are. It's where you guys are right now. My view of master plans ought to be, where are you going? Where are you going to go in the next 4 years? Where do you see the enrollment? I know it says 730, 795, but is there some prospect that you might go for more than that? I'd like to see those, see where you're going. I think the neighbors want to see where you're going. So there's things in here that I think should be forecast for the future. You're telling us where you've been, where you are today. My vote is probably a token vote will be not to accept this.
In that you feel that they should
It's not
spend more time on the future.
Right.
Okay, as part of their process. Any other comments?
Well, I feel like this does what it needs to do in terms of explaining to us that the parameters for how you think about your planning and targets the areas for the future that you're planning. It doesn't give maybe some timeline things that might be appropriate, but I spent 9 years on a school board in the East Bay with 59 schools and 36,000 kids, and I used to say 160,000 ecstatic parents, and we never generated this kind of report. One from a school standpoint, this is a very good thing. It's a good thing not only for the community but also for the beginning of a conversation about the past. So I agree it doesn't have a lot of the detail that you might see in a strategic plan from a planning perspective, but from a lay out the foundation for these areas. I think it does enough for what I'm comfortable with right now. I think it avoids the putting much on paper about the athletic area, which probably is a good idea right now, but it also sidesteps that as part of the plan. So that's a missing element. I think that it's probably strategically chosen not to put it in because of all the things that are going on with it, but it also avoids stating anything about it. So that's a deficiency in it. But as a beginning place, I'm comfortable as a beginning place.
In regard to that comment, Neil Martin had called me in regard to postponing the memo presentation, and because of the Carton Field. I said that he should go ahead, but leaving the details on Carton Field off this report because it would be separately handled.
Okay.
So
As long
it isn't, I don't, and I assume Neil may have told you that, so it isn't their problem, it's maybe mine.
Okay, yeah, so as long as you can produce 3 pages later on and go in there, that'll bother you for me.
So, and we'll have plenty of time
Yes, we will.
on Carton Field.
I think we will.
So, would you like to make a motion then?
Is there no other comments?
Comments?
No?
Well, I would just say in deference to what Phil said, since this is a rolling 5-year master plan, to make sure that you notice comments as far as moving ahead to next year's plan and making sure that you kind of keep those forward-looking plans in mind for next year's master plan.
Would it be okay to respond to Mr. Lively's comment, just on behalf of the school, but also quite personally? I think what you see is what we're thinking. You've got our future plans. We've heard very clearly from the town that 795 is our cap. We don't have any ideas to expand that cap. We've heard very clearly from the town that we need to manage our traffic around that expanded enrollment. We feel like we're working towards that project, but we don't have any plans to expand it because we haven't quite yet met our obligations first. So we don't have any plans to expand. We would tell you if we did. Likewise with the building. part of the reason that I joined the school is that the building projects are basically done. There's a performing arts center that needs to be finished. There's this open question about the Carton Field project that we're trying to work through with the college and with the neighbors. Beyond those, we don't have plans to expand our buildings. What we'd like to do is to go to work expanding our endowment and our programs, because we think that's the right next step for us as a school. So we'll be looking at things like how to get our kids out into the world and how to have more of an interaction with the area that we're in, how to continue to sort of offer a relevant education. Those are things that we think are really important for the school, not building the building. So in terms of the report, it really does, I think, accurately represent our thinking over the next 5 years. You've got all the projects that we've got in mind. We don't have big designs on anything else. Frankly, we need to think about our sustainability going forward and stop building buildings with the money that we raise and start to put it towards an endowment so that we can get some control over our tuition growth and our financial aid prospects and be able to have the kinds of families that we want in the school. So for whatever it's worth, I think as a newcomer, you fairly see what we're planning. And again, part of the reason that I chose to join the school was that I wouldn't be in a situation where we'd be building all kinds of campuses. So for whatever it's worth.
Thank you.
Do we have, are there any more questions? Do we have a motion?
Somebody on the floor.
Accept?
Somebody on the floor.
Oh, further? Okay, fine. Please come up to the stand.
My name is Jan McKenzie, and I'm a neighbor of the school on Victoria Drive. And I want to thank the school for being so open to the neighbors. We've had some wonderful meetings, and they explained to me in incredible detail a lot of what was talked about tonight, but even more in detail so that I could understand it. They were very patient. And I also just appreciate the fact that we can communicate, and I share that then with our neighborhood. And I do believe that the afternoon number needed to be changed after that was explained at length to me. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions? Not to hurry you, but somebody
I move to accept the report for filing.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All nays?
Nay.
The motion passes 4-1. The next item on the agenda is item number
Thank you.
8. See you all in January.
There's a party every month around here.
Oh, yeah.
This is a revision to the muni code, municipal code, relating to athletic court. Staff?
Good evening, Commissioners. The next item before you is to consider revisions to Atherton Municipal Code Chapter 17.40 and 17.60 relating to athletic courts. The Commission had expressed interest in looking at possible revisions to the code, to the athletic code regulations to clarify specific types of athletic facilities such as BMX tracks, skateboard ramps and parks, and batting cages. Staff has conducted some research and also, based on that and on our town characteristics, has included some suggested language in your staff report, including adding specific types of facilities such as bocce ball courts, skateboard ramps, BMX tracks, and batting cages to the definition section of the municipal code, where it outlines what an athletic court is. Staff has also suggested additional language within section 17.40.050 of the municipal code, which addresses the specific regulations for athletic courts. Just generally speaking, staff is proposing that skateboard ramps and BMX tracks do not exceed 4 feet in height, and that no motorized vehicles would be allowed. Requirements for those types of facilities would also include conformance with building regulations, as well as grading and drainage criteria, for compliance both with the town's ordinance and also stormwater requirements. Staff is also suggesting regulations for batting cages, which would limit the height and materials allowed to construct those. And our current code does allow enclosures around athletic courts up to 9 feet tall. If someone wanted to propose anything taller than that, then we're recommending it would be considered an accessory building and count towards floor area rather than an athletic court. Please note that staff is not recommending making any changes to setbacks or outdoor lighting, which currently is not permitted on athletic courts. And at this time, would like to hear input from the commission and any direction you might have to prepare an ordinance amendment or any changes you would like to add into the ordinance. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
What we're being asked tonight is just to, or you're really informing us of various changes that could be in the ordinance.
Yeah, at this point, we just wanted to give you some suggestions, and I think it's always easier to kind of see it in context.
Right.
And so that's why we did that, but it's really open for, it's kind of the first meeting where we've started talking about it. So not set in stone by any means, and open to any comments that you have.
Okay. And the action that you want from us is?
Some directions so that we can prepare an ordinance and bring it back to you.
Okay.
And then, once you have that ordinance kind of in a format you're comfortable with, then that would be a recommendation up to city council.
Okay.
It may be that it takes a couple of meetings. If it's really detailed, you need a subcommittee, you can do that. We're open to whatever the commission would like to do at this point.
Just to open up the discussion, you have given us on page 2 the definition, I guess by code.
The
of
current
an
definition.
Accessory structure shall mean a detached building that is not enclosed by walls and a solid or partially enclosed roof. But many accessory structures in the town have walls and a roof.
Well, we have an accessory building definition and an accessory
All right.
structure definition.
All
And
right.
so we're just
All right.
focused on
All right.
accessory
All right,
structures.
excuse me, we have two
Yeah, it can be confusing.
animals here.
Two accessories, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I've got a question. Pardon. Go ahead, Renee.
Everywhere that you talk about batting cages, I would like to see you add golf swing cages.
Good.
They're-
Driving
they're-
ranges.
Yeah, what, yeah, driving range.
Yeah.
Because I think there are some of those.
Mhm.
And also,